me introduce everybody to Derek, our first speaker today. Well, first of all, thank you, President Ken, for setting up this very last-minute discussion on the coronavirus. There are many things that are already coming down the line. Trump has signed the CARES Act, and there are many employer versus employee labor-related issues, tax rebates. So we're gonna just among the three speakers today, we're gonna try to get some clarity on this. So I asked my friend, my very good friend, Derek Yi. He's an attorney practicing in the Hollywood area. He's the chief legal counsel at the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. And yesterday he made his presentation on the new coronavirus recommended strategy for employers. This is a specific topic. I asked him to speak for about half an hour, followed by questions and answers that we can have. And Derek has prepared a PowerPoint that he can make presentation for us. But before Derek starts, let's have Ken, our President Ken. Ken, 请你讲一些话好吗?
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's nice to have this chance to go through those new policy. And hopefully everybody be able to get some information back after this today's seminars. We mainly use English, but I think it's okay to mix between English and the Chinese, whatever. Just do whatever, steal back or borrow, just get the information you need. So let's get going. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. Okay, so right now, most everybody's microphone is muted for this conference purpose because we want to keep the background noise to a minimum. If later on, if you want to raise your hand question, or if you want to type in question through the chat box, feel free to do so. 或者你们等一下有问题的时候要问的时候 you need to unmute. 你的那个 app 的左下角应该有一个麦克风的一个 button 啊哈，你按一下那就会 unmute。那你针对你的电脑或者你的电话声音就会出来，那这样子我们就可以听到大家要讲的话。Okay, so with that, let's get Derek to get started on his presentation. Derek, would you please start your PowerPoint, please?
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, Paul and Ken. I am an attorney in Los Angeles. I'm a business and labor attorney here, and I am the general counsel to the Hollywood Chamber. So yesterday I did make a presentation. It lasted about an hour and a half because of a lot of questions and answers and topics that I will not go through with here that are specific to the city of Los Angeles. But my PowerPoint presentation, which I will be going through, has a lot of details and a lot of links. So Paul is going to upload that to your chamber's website so that you can look at it after. And then in addition to that, if you have specific questions to the chamber, you can write it to your chamber and they can forward it to me, or at the end of my PowerPoint presentation is a contacts list which has my email and phone and address, and I'm happy to do follow-up questions via email. There will be a brief question and answer session after I go through my PowerPoint. So again, I'm gonna get started. You can see from my flyer, this was mainly, it's called the Recommended Strategies for Employers Due to COVID-19, and it's mainly for business owners. And again, the focus was business owners in the Southern California area. Can you see my PowerPoint, Paul?
No, I don't see it yet. I still see your image screen.
Okay.
There, I see it.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, we're learning as we go. Okay, there's a disclaimer. You can't hold my firm or the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce responsible for anything I present. I'm trying to give you the best information I have available, especially with these new COVID laws. They are changing daily, and I'm not sure of the updates daily. So before you rely on this information, please consult with your own attorneys or the appropriate agencies. Here's my quick bio. Again, I'm a litigator and a business attorney in California. Here's the topics that I'm going to cover a bit quicker today than yesterday, but it's the California stay-at-home order, the federal paid leave, business financial assistance, frequently asked questions to employers, and then just for reference, I put the CDC interim guidelines and some links. And I'm going to skip the president's message because that dealt with our efforts here in Hollywood to oppose certain Band-Aid regulations that are trying to be forced through of the city of LA. But you could read them at the end if you are in the city of LA and see if you can oppose them also. Okay, the first topic is the California stay-at-home order. Most of you know this, we're all affected by it. If you want to see the actual order itself, you'll be able to see it at this link. And again, the PowerPoint presentation will be available later. The effective date was March 19th, and it's in place until further notice. It's open-ended. No one knows how long this is going to last. What's open? Gas stations, pharmacy, grocery stores, food banks, convenience stores, takeout places, delivery restaurants. This brings up a point, like just last week, the city of LA closed farmers markets. So what do you do when there's a conflict of law? Because the California state governor allowed for farmers markets to stay open, but the city of Los Angeles temporarily closed them. So you have to go with whichever one is more exclusive and restrictive. So here in the city of LA, if you own a farmer's market or you participate in one, they are closed for the time being. Although I heard this morning they may reopen limitedly. Banks are open, laundromats are open, a lot of government services are open, but some are closed, so you'll have to check with them. I know the DMV closed, but it's scheduled to reopen in Los Angeles. County court is closed. I was trying to record grant deeds for a client and I could not. And courts are partially closed. All of my litigation has slowed down. All of my hearings have been postponed. What else is closed? Dine-in restaurants, bars and nightclubs, entertainment venues, gyms and fitness studios, public events and gathering, convention centers, hair and nail salons. Los Angeles County, not the state, closed its beaches, and the state parks and Los Angeles County temporarily closed its public hiking trails and parks. Okay, so for business owners, if it's not clear that you're exempt, you have to go on to this list, which is called the Essential Critical Infrastructures Workers List. And these are exempt businesses that can remain open for business. And I have a link on my PowerPoint slide to this list. It's not always clear. Some of my clients are coming to me and asking me for a legal opinion on whether they could stay open. And with that, they have a good faith effort to remain open, as well as something to show to the police or authorities if they come to them. A good example is a video store. Video stores of themselves are not on that list, but that particular client of mine also services and sells cell phone and computer equipment, which are on the list, that they are open. Another example is an architect design firm that I represent asked if they could be open. Architects are not on the list. However, professionals supporting critical infrastructure workers are, and construction workers are on the list. So since an architect is a professional supporting someone on the list and they're supporting active construction sites, that business could stay open. Exemption letters. I have clients who are being stopped by law enforcement officers. So a good example is a fulfillment center client of mine who is exempt because they're under postal and delivery services. So here for them, I researched the law, I determined they're exempt, I wrote the exemption, and I gave them a letter that they can print out and give to all their employees so they have it ready if they get pulled over by law enforcement. Okay, the next section is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. this is the new act that went into effect yesterday, and it requires paid leave for employers that have less than 500 employees nationwide. And this is in addition to the California state and the city paid sick leave requirements. It is funded by the federal government, so through tax credits. I think Paul will talk about that later, but basically it went into effect on April 1st. So a lot of businesses had a rush to finalize terminations before April 1st, but now that we're on April 2nd and it's in effect, that option is gone. So if you are operating a business right now, you have to provide up to 2 weeks paid sick leave to your employees based on this new federal law. And it's 2 weeks at the regular rate of pay for quarantine workers and 2 weeks, and let me change that to or. So it's not an additional 2 weeks, but or 2 weeks because employee is caring for an individual subject to quarantine or to care for a child. In addition to the 2 weeks, there's additional 10 weeks of paid expanded family medical leave at 2/3 employees' rate of pay. And that is for employees that were employed for at least 30 days, and that is to care for children or because of their school is closed or unavailable due to COVID reasons. There is a small business exception. This is creating a lot of uncertainty, but right now the way it's structured is that it's only for small businesses with fewer than 50 employees may qualify to have exemptions if and only if it's due to school closing or childcare unavailability, not because of those other reasons that I talked about earlier, the COVID reasons for the 2 weeks pay leave. So you also would have to have a second tier. Not only would this exemption have to be because of school and childcare needs, but it also the employer would have to show that the leave requirements would jeopardize the viability of its business as a going concern. And this may be difficult because again, this is going to be funded through a tax credit. And as of today, the Labor Department still has not issued its formal regulations, which on its own website says that they're expected in April. Required posting. This could be a trap for unwary employers. All employers are required to give notice to their employees of this new Paid Leave Act. Since a lot of workers are working from home, it is important that you not only post at work if your work offices are open, but you also have to send them emails. If they don't have mail, like some workers, you'll have to mail it to them and post it on your website. These postings are additional to your other sick leave postings and other employment postings, such as there is a California state as well as a city of Los Angeles, that is, in whatever city you're in, might have additional sick leave minimums and require postings. Here's a copy of the federal poster that you should post. It's available for free by download. I have the link here, or you can call them, the Department of Labor, and get a copy of this. You're not required to post it in multiple languages, but I did see as of yesterday, they just released them in Spanish and Chinese. So although not required by law, you can post it in Chinese also, since most of the Taiwan chambers have Chinese employees. You don't have to provide these to laid off employees or applicants, only to current employees. Okay, a lot of businesses are hurting. I feel it, especially with a lot of my clients, and there is some help. The CARES Act that everyone's hearing about that was issued by the president recently in the federal government. On the news, it's mainly focused on helping and sending aid to individuals. I'm gonna focus on the business side. So to help businesses, there's a SBA Paycheck Protection Loan Program, and it's administered by the Small Business Administration. And I'll go through it more in the next slides. But the best part about this is that there is a loan forgiveness proponent to this. So it's available to small businesses, nonprofit organizations, sole proprietorships, independent contractors, self-employed, and franchise businesses. The loan size maximum will be 250% of the average monthly payroll costs based on salaries from last year if you were in business, or in the second paragraph it shows you'd use this year's if you were not in business last year. And the loan maximum is $10 million. You can use the loan funds for payroll costs, group health care benefits, salaries, commissions, interest on mortgage, rent, utilities, and interest on other debts. The terms are 4%, zero loan fees, zero prepayment fees for 10 years. And here's the best part, is if it's used for payroll, you can, well, if it's used for any of the reasons I stated it could be used, you can apply for loan forgiveness in proportion to maintaining employees and wages. Okay, in addition to that new CARES Act program, there are also other federal SBA loan programs. There's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. It allows for low interest loans of up to $2 million for profit and nonprofit businesses that are impacted by the coronavirus. And there's the SBA Express Bridge Loan Program that allows small businesses to have access to $25,000, and it's supposed to be with less paperwork and done quicker. And this is intended to be a gap while waiting for an application for the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program loan to come through. For more help and to apply, you can either go to your local bank or lender that deals with SBA loans, or go to this site at the bottom, this SBA site that I have on the webpage. And my understanding is that there's a very good help program that will tell you what you qualify for. In addition to the federal loans, there are state loans available for the coronavirus. The California iBank has a small business loan guarantee program of loans up to $1 million and microloans up to $10,000. And the California Treasury's office has a small business loan. There's a really wonderful site called GoBiz. I have the link on this PowerPoint slide. And that again is supposed to be a very useful interactive tool that will let you know what California loans you qualify for. Rent relief, while this was changing quickly, I just learned last Friday that the city of Los Angeles has enacted a eviction freeze. Basically, the governor Newsom issued an executive order which removed state law limitations and allowed local governments to enact their rent policies. And early, the city of Los Angeles had eviction freezes just for residential tenants. And now he enacted it, eviction freeze for commercial. For residential tenants in Los Angeles, they have 12 months to pay their rent after the this emergency period has expired. And with commercial, they have 3 months. So it's not a loan forgiveness. I mean, it's not a rent forgiveness. It's just a delay and affirmative defense in any unlawful detainer action to give you more time to pay once this crisis is over. I have a link to the actual ordinance on this slide. Okay, I'm going to go through. I'm sorry if I'm going quickly, but I only have a half an hour and only about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to get to some of the more important questions I have. So I'm going to flip through these and get to some. There is a CDC website with high-risk countries you can look at, and employers are advised to have employees quarantined for 14 days. Here's an important question. Do I have to pay employees that ask to leave work or stay at home due to COVID-19, especially with the closure orders. It's not even voluntary in a lot of circumstances. So I'm gonna break this up into two portions. The first one is non-exempt hourly employees. If they're working at home, of course, you still have to pay them. But if they show up to work and then you send them home because of closure or because they exhibit COVID issues, or they return from a trip and have to self-quarantine, if they show up and you send them home, you have to pay what's called reporting time pay, which is at least 2 hours up to 4 hours, depending on how long they are at work before you send them home. And then thereafter, if they're at home and once they use up their paid sick time, including the federal, state, local, and whatever other sick leave you gave them, employer may have provided, along with their vacation time, then, or other paid time off time, then you don't have to pay them. You should apply your policies uniformly to avoid the risk of discrimination. But in addition, you can recommend to your employees that they have unemployment insurance possibilities, and there are coronavirus unemployment insurance policies in place to speedline it, as well as there's federal supplement to that. In addition, the federal government has extended unemployment benefits to self-employed also. Okay, for exempt employees, if they're working, then fine, you gotta keep paying them. But if they don't work at all during an entire work week, you can reduce their pay, but you can't reduce it below the 2 times state minimum wage, because they still have to qualify as exempt employees on their salary basis exemption minimum. The alternative is you can convert the exempt to non-exempt employees and track their time and pay them for the hours worked plus overtime. And of course, the ultimate, other option is to terminate them. Okay, just this slide is to, you should maintain the confidentialities of employees, so that if someone in the workplace has been infected, you should not disclose their identity without their consent. There's a site on here to the CDC website to what to do if an employee is infected. You can't generally require a doctor's note. You can read about this later on this slide. School closings, we talked about that. There is the new FFCRA, paid sick leave, and in addition, just generally California law prohibits employers with 25 or more employees from discharging or discriminating against an employee for taking up to 40 hours off due to a school emergency. Employee expenses, you should either supply the tools needed for the job, including sanitizers or face masks. And if the employee does purchase them, you should reimburse them. Okay, here's an important one that I've been getting, which is employees that are affected, can you reduce your hours or temporary layoff employees? Generally, yes. California is an at-will state, so after they exhaust their paid sick leave, you can terminate them. And on this site is the link to the unemployment insurance that I talked about earlier. Again, the reduction hours for an employee is going to be considered qualification for unemployment insurance. Okay, temporary layoffs and termination. You close or you reduce your workforce and send them home, and you tell them they're temporarily laid off until you can come back in business. Well, layoffs and furloughs for unspecified time period or more than 10 days are treated as terminations. So although you won't have to do the paperwork to rehire them when you call them back necessarily, you have to treat it as if they're terminated as of the day you give them notice. So you have to give them their final paycheck and pay them their reimbursable expenses, accrued vacation, and give them their notices such as COBRA notices, retirement plan notices, unemployment, and other terminated related notices. And to make sure that they have proper notices as well as fair notices, a lot of my clients have been asking me to prepare notices of the reduction in workforce or temporary closures. The WARN Act, this applies to employers with employees over 100 employees in the federal government guidelines or 75 in California. Here in California, the WARN Act notice has been waived. However, although they waived the 60-day notice, you have to provide the notice as soon as practicable. And the WARN notice simply means that if you are a large employer, you have to give advance notice before a mass layoff, not only to the employee, but also to certain government entities. And here, if it's a layoff of more than 50 in California and you qualify because you have more than 75, or if you shut down a business unit with no minimum, you will have to give these notices. And you can get more information on EDD WARN notice at ed.ca.gov. Work from home. Again, you should, if you are permitting work from home, you should go put in place certain work at home policies. One, make sure you pay their business expenses. A lot of employees are using their own computers, printers, internet. So you should pay them and compensate them for the pro rata use of their own equipment. You should track hours, make them log in. If you can't log in, create a worksheet that they have to turn in, or even verbally call them and get their time reported, because you have to pay the hourly workers for the hours work and make sure they're taking their meal and rest breaks and pay them overtime. I also recommend that this apply also to your exempt employees so that you can gauge the amount and quality of the work being done by your staff at home. You should provide your employees working at home with copies of all your employment policies, your meal and rest break, your overtime, your safety policies. I have, in my employment packages that I provide to my clients, I have injury report forms. If an employee's at home and gets injured, there's a good chance they're gonna make a workers' comp claim. So when there's a injury, whether it's at home or at work, I have two forms, one for the supervisors to complete and one for the injured employee to complete. And you have to make sure that all your employers know that for hourly employees, they should only perform work during the regularly scheduled work week and only communicate with other employees during regularly scheduled, because you're going to have to pay hours and overtime. And a big issue has been waiting time, on-call time. If you expect your employee to be available 24 hours a day, you're going to have to pay them 24 hours a day plus the overtime. So in determining on-call, there's a sliding scale of how much burden there is and restriction on their personal life. So if they just have to be available for emergencies, that's fine. But if they have to be available to jump to report to a fire alarm or something like that, then they are on call and they will need to be compensated for their on-call time. Okay, I have the CDC interim guidelines on here. I'm not going to go through them. They're available on this link, and I have some of them printed here for your further use. I have, there are free posters available from the CDC. You can either download them and post them or email them to your employees, post it on your work's website. If you call them, they'll mail these to you. These are links. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce has a wonderful COVID-19 resource guide that has a lot of information, and it's updated daily. And there's also all these other federal and state links that I have on this site. I have contact information for myself or for the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. And that's it for now. Paul, can you take it back over?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Derek. So I have your PowerPoint, unless that's changed, but otherwise I'm gonna be sending that PowerPoint over to our chamber secretary, Lisa, and then she'll help us distribute it to our members that are in attendance today. And I want to field some, I did see a couple of questions posted on the chat. One is coming from Danny. He's asking Attorney Derek about the Paycheck Protection Program. Is it available to non-U.S. citizen-owned businesses? For example, is a Taiwan-owned U.S. subsidiary eligible to apply for the PPP?
All right, is my mic still open?
Yes.
Okay, it's available to all U.S. businesses, and you have to think of it, especially if you're a corporate entity, that you are paying taxes in the USA, and yes, it should apply.
Okay.
It should be available. One other point I wanted to put is there are business interruption insurance is a big hot legal topic right now. Almost every business in the United States, if they're leasing property, a standard lease provision requires business interruption insurance, and most commercial policies do have this component. It's under heavy litigation right now because the insurance companies are currently denying coverage due to COVID, but it's being litigated, and the legislation, federal legislation, is trying to pass laws regarding it and are debating it right now. So my recommendation is for everybody with this policy to go ahead and make a claim right now for business interruption to preserve your rights. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
No. Thanks for that. I also want to mention for some of you folks that are not posting questions on the chat, if you're not typing, but you feel like asking a question, 用中文也可以 okay? I can translate that for Derek. 可是你要讲话的话，要先在你的左下角那个麦克风先 unmute， 你左下角一个麦克风的一个那个 icon 啊哈，要给它那个划掉，这样子你的声音才会出来。So Derek, as more questions come in, I'll let you know as well. Or if I face more questions later that I can't answer, I will call you or I will email you as well.
Yeah.
The next session, go ahead.
Everyone's welcome to send me emails. My link is on the PowerPoint slide, my email address.
Okay. Thank you very much. President Ken, do you have anything to say for what questions for Derek at this time?
His mic is mute.
我没有，不过我看到了一些那个大家 post 的问题，你要现在问还是 post？ 你要
对，就现在问啊，现在问。那
上面有一些你看得到吗？
Okay, I see another question from Karen. Karen Chen, is the EIDL, that emergency, that $2 million loan program, have only certain amount to apply? How soon the money will send to the company? I think I just partially answered, like 2 million. That's my understanding. Derek?
Oh, I don't know the specifics of the timing of it right now. These are all such new programs, and even the policies are not fully written. I'm just trying to make you aware of what that they're currently being made available. I think on the financial side, I'm going to kick those questions to Paul, actually.
Yes, actually, Kevin Ye, our VP, is going to make his presentation on the PPP more detail, and maybe he'll touch upon the EIDL as well. Kevin, I see your name as Rick Chen. Are you able to speak?
Yeah, 听得到我的声音吗? Can you hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
Because I log in my staff's account, so.
Okay, you have the you're now the host, so you could you could share your screen. You have to go to the icon that says share screen, and then you can share your desktop.
Okay, share screen. Okay, let me check. Can you see the screen for the PowerPoint?
看得到吗？
Not yet. You have to hit the share and then double click on your screen, whatever that screen would be, and hit share. You have to hit share, I think.
来，我看一下。哎，能不能帮我 share screen？ 要请他们进来 share screen 一下。
OK，
现在怎么 share screen 上去？哎，帮我这个 screen 上去。
在下面那个 screen 下面有一个 share screen。
好。OK， 这样看得到吗
Yes.
Yeah. OK。
好，那基本上呢，因为we already have an English version， 所以 basically there's a concept for the PPP and for the economic injury disaster loan。那我现在用中文来快速介绍一下，有一些比较小的细节。好，这样有没有问题？
目前没有问题。
好
So Derek,
okay.
Derek, Kevin's gonna be presenting his presentation mostly in Chinese. If you feel the need to leave, please feel free to do so. But you're also welcome to stay as well in case other questions come up. Okay.
Thank you, and I also see that his PowerPoint is in English anyway.
Okay.
OK， 好，因为我现在3个部分哈，因为大家很多都是讲细节问题哦，那大家讲一个 concept， 那我先分享哈，3个，第一个呢就是 PPP， 第二个就是 EIDL， 第3个就是 work sharing。那基本上那个 Derek 已经介绍 ，There's 3500亿贷款。第一个我们要介绍 PPP， 因为这个4月3号开跑，然后呢 EIDL 是直接上网去申请。那我待会 cover 到，因为之前我先给大家看过那个 PowerPoint。我们先介绍这个 Paycheck Protection Program。第一个不用花钱，第二个呢，它重点是要你在 retain employee， 要 retain 这些员工。有些你可能已经 lay off 了，可能有让你有机会要 rehire 回来。然后呢，它甚至没用完的部分，可能可以让你pay 这个房租，还有 mortgage 或者是 utility 这些支出。那基本上呢，这些会是不是可以 forgiven？ 好，这是第2阶段。我们第1阶段要先算的 maximum loan amount， 好，所以很多人现在搞不清楚 maximum loan amount。现在呢，先跟各位报告一下这个里面内容，然后我再告诉你每个银行现在告诉我的 feedback。好，那基本上呢，这个所有的费用是从2月15号2020到6月30 2020， 它现在是要涵盖这个部分的这些的cash flow。然后有没有可能全部或部分免除 ？Yes， 但是你如果最后呢，你的员工数或者薪水不到一个水准的话 ，It's not everything can be free， 不会被 forgiven。所以这个部分是第2阶段我们可能要去计算的。但是 first of all， 我们现在 apply 这个 loan 是 for sure， 有些 business 是非常适合的。好，贷款资格 ，Number 1就是不能多于500人。第2个小型企业，然后呢？ Non-profit 也可以，50C3 也可以 ，Self Employee 也可以 ，Self Employee 可能是4月5号开始，那其他的 Small Business 就是4月3号。那接下来呢，这个部落企业就是一些这个少数民族的，就是印第安的那些 tribe 或者是一些特殊的团体，但是我们还是 focus on 我们商会全部都是 Small Business。当然这个 Self Employee 它有别的计算方法，那我们不用花太多时间介绍那个，我们就先算你怎么去。贷款那个金额怎么算？所以基本上我们第一个要算的是你有没有符资格，基本上都 yes。然后呢，贷款所需注意事项，第一个你2月15以前都要有商业活动第二个你有付这个员工的薪水跟薪资税那接下来呢，你这些钱主要的不是拿来做其他用途，所以主要是要付员工的薪水。那你不能同样的，譬如说你申请的 Chase， 然后呢，你又去把这个 application 又去送East West， 然后再把一个 application 送到 CACCLA 看哪一个快 ？No， 你只能找一个银行去申请。So 很重要的一点，只能申请一个银行。所以呢，现在的银行每个都焦头烂额。但是呢，因为待会我跟报告为什么会发生这样的情形。然后呢，基本上呢，你没有获得其他类似贷款，基本上 PPP 就一次一个银行。这就是 number 1， 要注意这个就好。怎么计算？就是假设你前1年每月平均薪水的2.5倍，这个是你的计算。假设说去年你的 business， 我们用一个简单来算，花了120万的薪水，平均1个月就是10万块 10万块呢，你可以借到2.5倍，就是25万。25万呢，基本上呢，你如果继续再付薪水的话，然后呢，不要被这个所谓的再裁减人员或者是付的太少，基本上25万都有可能都不用还。所以说，第一个你要先算你的 payroll 是不是这个 payroll cost 包含什么？当然，我们已经在跟银行在 work on 这个窝序，基本上呢就是 salary、vacation pay、family leave、sick leave， 再加上所有的你的每个月的这个 group health insurance， 甚至你的这个什么这个 retirement， 因为大家都是用 W2、W3 的9万就是 gross， 可是你的 gross 可能有defer 18000或者是22000的这个 401k， 所以我们要把它加回去，然后再加上 SUI， 所以这个比较细节，但是基本上你就用薪水去看就好了。薪水平均1个月10万，你就可以借25万。好，什么东西要拿掉？比如说，有的人的薪水里面是15万，你只能用10万去算，就超过10万的部分就不抗。所以说有的员工、老板娘可能都是超过10万，他们只能用10万去算，再加上其他每个员工的 W2 的金额，加起来平均1个月多少乘以2.5，就是你的 maximum loan amount。那其他的当然比较细，包含说什么 federal withholding 啊 ，social security tax 这些其实比较小的部分，那大概影响的数字是大概7.65%。所以说我现在用一个比较大约的数字，就是说你用你的 W3、W2 去算，除以12，基本上那个数字就很接近了。好，所以基本上大家怎么去借钱，大概就知道大概可以借这么多钱。然后呢，接下来如果借到钱，银行给你钱之后，你开始要去花钱，你的花钱可以cover 你的接下来8个礼拜的薪水、你的利息、你的租金，还有 utility， 这些到时候有资格。刚才我讲的，譬如说你25万，全部还是花在员工的身上，没用完的还可以把 rent 这些的单据补给银行。基本上这些所有的钱，到时候再去申请 forgiven 的时候是 SBA 审核你有 forgiven 的 amount， 譬如说25万是20万 forgiven，5万块就是你要还。那20万呢 ，SBA 就会把钱补给银行，所以 overall 银行是 100% guarantee， 所以银行只赚 0.5%， 所以银行很愿意做这件事情的机会很多。但是因为基本上现在银行是焦头烂额，是因为他们很多的 loan 大还在处理，是因为现在所有的人的 loan 可能要重新再去谈过，因为很多的 business 的 income drop， 所以说他们现在新的 program 的意愿有没有那么强，我们再跟各位报告一下。但基本上，你假设我们刚才讲1年120万的 salary 除以12，一个月10万，你就可以借25万，20万有机会全部都不用还好，那当然什么情况你的这个 forgiven 会受影响 ？Number one， 这个有点复杂，但是基本上给一个概念，譬如说你原本请10个人，后来呢你剩下5个人，但是你rehire没有 hire 到那么多，所以说你 forgiven 的数字就可能会受影响，有一部分的员工你没有把它 rehire 回来，没有捕捉到跟以前 comparable 的这些员工数，譬如说你每个月10万，但是你只有10个人，但是你现在只请回5个人，所以有一部分的薪水是还要还的那第二个是薪资减少，也就是说，他希望你不但维持不要 lay off， 第二件事情薪水至少75%，所以基本上这个2个条件加下来有点难度，但是呢，基本上它的概念是这样子：8个礼拜的薪水政府替你出，但是呢，你要维持一定的员工数，维持的越完整，基本上他就完全替你付，薪水也要维持到75%以上，他也替你完全付。所以说我们现在在考虑说，是不是可以 combine 跟 state 的 EDD 的那个 work sharing 可能做一个搭配，也许有一部分的钱他们可以去领那个 EDD， 一部分的钱是用政府这个 PPP， 所以2个加起来可能有帮助。但是我们讲实际的你这个原本你就已经砍人了，你现在又把他叫回来，然后呢8个礼拜之后，你还是觉得我还是只需要5个人，这叫做2次伤害2次伤害又把它 lay off 掉。所以说我觉得这个 program 只是帮你度过一直到6月30这些艰困的时期， 如果疫情持续没有减少，经济回不来的时候，政府可能第4波的这个救援计划就要下去了，因为呢，所有的人到6月30以后，可能还是继续要 lay off 啊，所以基本上呢，现在这个概念就是说 ，PPP 要不要去申请？有些企业非常适合，因为它现在需要 cash flow， 它需要很多的员工还是每天在，因为它是 essential business 然后基本上呢。如果说有些人生病，或者是 sick leave， 或者是他小孩子在家必须有 care， 那政府会给 credit。那这个表格叫做7200，昨天才刚下来，但是没有在我这 PowerPoint 上。但基本上让大家知道，第一，你继续付 payroll 可以被 forgiven 的机会有。Number 2， 你继续付这些新的 HR 6201的 session 的这些 additional 的这些的这些 benefit 给员工的时候，政府还是会给你有一些 credit。所以到时候这些表格可以慢慢再跟大家 update， 我会再把这些 email 再请这个会长再送给大家。好，那基本上大家有这个概念，就是说尽量有没有机会减少说这个薪水不要发太少，或者是员工不要 lay off 太多，你就有资格申请 PPP， 而且可以有2个月的8个礼拜的钱是政府替你出。好，如何申请？基本上呢 ，PPP 全部都是你跟你的银行，因为呢，我现在问过所有的银行，有些银行基本上它不收新的 account， 也就是说，如果你现在有合作的，譬如说 Chase、East West、CACCLA 他们基本上 branch 的这些 manager 他不太清楚，但是他会把表格交给你，他让你去填，然后呢再 submit in 到他们的 SBA 的 department。那有些这个是 online， 所以呢，像 Chase 全部是 online， 所以你就 upload 上去，所以基本上现在是这样子来处理。那有没有银行会接新的客人？我问过几个银行，因为他们处理旧的现有的客人都已经忙不过来了，新的客人他们可能没有这个时间跟力量去处理。好，那刚才这个 PPP， 待会我顺便跟大家报告一下现在最主要是因为所有的 loan down因为有些譬如说 landlord。他必须跟银行去谈，他可能要 defer 他的这个 mortgage payment， 因为他的 tenant 不付 rent，commercial 的，或者是说他要必须 defer 3个月，所以基本上银行说都可以去谈，但是呢，有的可以去谈重新改 loan down 是 interest only，principal 先不要付，所以他们都要改。然后呢，或者是说你可以 defer 跟他谈说3个月我可能payment 没办法付。defer 3个月，然后不影响你的信用，不影响你的 credit， 可不可以谈 ？Yes。So far 我听到几个银行说 yes。所以说，如果你有这个 commercial 的 property， 要跟人家 discuss 说我要 defer 一些 payment， 这个目前听起来银行都愿意去重新再帮助你度过这几个月的状况，所以基本上这是这个状况。但是我在问到 PPP 的时候，每个都摇头，因为呢对他们来讲，这个是新的 program。虽然每个客人都每天打电话说我现在要做 PPP， 但是4月3号就开跑，他们觉得有点像在抢这个卫生纸，所以呢，很大的问题就出在这里，抢卫生纸，但是呢，银行还没 ready， 所以说他们4月6号他们会跟 SBA 每个银行都会跟他们有一个 webinar， 跟这些问题的这些 Q&A， 然后他们要重新把他们的 guideline 写得更清楚。然后呢，所有的 application 他们知道怎么去 process， 所以说银行都告诉我说，其实如果1-2个礼拜前就下来就很快了。所以说大家要先有个想法，不要太大的 expectation， 说这个钱马上就下来，可是太晚可能又救不了企业。所以说我们抓这个时间1个礼拜到2个礼拜，你的 PPP 上去之后能下来，应该是算蛮顺利的。好，所以对 PPP 的概念是这样子。那接下来有人就开始讨论说，这个所谓的 EIDL 就是做 Economic Injury Disaster Loan， 这个呢是这样子，你上网这个全部都是 SBA 申请 ，SBA 上去最高借到200万，然后呢第二件事情，它的 interest 不能超过就是不能超过4，以现在来讲就是 3.75， 可以借多少？目前说是30年。刚才讲 PPP 的时候呢，以前他是说10年。如果不 qualify 等于10年，然后呢不超过4，可是呢现在新的表格出来了，2年 0.5%， 所以说到时候表格我会请这个会长发给大家， 哦，就是说现在银行的标准表格是这样，上面已经写0.5% for 2 years。如果你不 qualify 是 forgiven 的话 ，remaining balance 你在2年内要还。好，但是有没有担保品？有没有 collateral？ 有没有 personal guarantee？No， 全部都没有。所以 PPP 值得去做。哦，那这个呢，我们现在讲到这个200万的这个 EIDL 要有新的担保品 collateral。第二个，它要 personal guarantee。好，谁可以申请？所有的 small business、self employee 都可以 ，independent contractor 都可以申请。上网去申请，你一定要记得勾那个1万块，你要先 advance。3天内 routing number 打进去 ，account number 打进去，申请表一 submit 进去，3天内钱要到你的账户里面去。有机会不用返还，但是基本上是你的 application 最后整个都填完之后，它 denial 你的这个1万块叫做 grant。有机会，他可能叫你不用 repay， 所以为什么现在很多的大家 Google 去 YouTube， 好多这个大概好随便一看，只要打1万块，这个 SBA loan， 那个都很多的网红都要教你怎么去填那个表格，所以基本上，有没有可能会被 abuse？ 也许有可能，但基本上只要你认为你是有受损害的，你的 sales 有 drop， 基本上你就可以去申请。但是有的人会问我说，我现在已经有个 loan 1000万了，我去申请这个200万，因为最主要你的现在existing loan 都有 collateral， 所以说呢，你可能适合的人是适合第一个我的 loan 很少，第二个我的从来没有 loan， 所以呢我的 collateral provide 出去的时候呢，它的利息比较低，因为现在 commercial 的 loan 或者是 line of credit 可能不一定会超过 3.75 的机会很高，所以基本上大家要比较一下，跟你的 CPA、跟你的银行 work together， 说我合不合适申请这个200万的 loan。而且呢，200万大家也不要 expectation 太高，因为你说200万那是最高，也许下来只有50万。好，所以说这个都是我最怕是看得到吃不到啊。然后呢，申请的网站就是我上面这个 SBA.gov， 基本上呢5分钟就可以填好了，5分钟就可以填好了。我待会秀这个 sample 给你们看，这就是 sample。上那个网站，总共要走5个步骤。第一个步骤，大家最简单填的就是说你是500人以下，就第一个就全填。但是呢，接下来下面呢，如果你任何没有打勾的基本上那个就过不了下一页。那下一页呢，就是你的 business 的 information， 你 business 的 information 就是你公司的 EIN 啊这些的基本的 information， 大家可以用这个 PowerPoint， 到时候可能我请这个我们的会长发给大家，大家可以看一下这个 sample。那我要讲的是比较重要的是说什么东西你们一定要记得，要比较有点技术性的问题可以看到说它的有一个问题是问你的 SIC code， 所以有的人在找 SIC code 的时候觉得有点难度所以说你那个要填对找得到你的 business 的这个相关的 activity， 你就可以到下一页去然后呢，这个是我现在目前看客人在填的时候他们会遇到的问题那接下来是这个owner 的 information， 所以说你 owner 的 information、social security number、date of birth 这些填进去，就可以继续往下走一页那最重要的是在有一页是在讲说你要不要这个 advance 的这个1万块，你一定要记得打勾，不然你这现在就是白做工所以说到时候你们看这些 PowerPoint 的时候请注意。要注意到你的 advance for 10,000一定要打勾，不然呢，你接下来就拿不到这1万块。然后呢，你要给他 routing number， 给他 bank account 的 number， 基本上3天内，3天内钱就会进来那到时候你的 application， 他可能 SBA 会跟你 require 所有的 application form， 包含他要做一些guarantee 的啦、collateral 啦，或甚至你的这个所谓的过去的record check， 包含因为他要证明说你是不是有这个以前有没有犯罪记录所以基本上这都是上面你在上网你可以 back and forth 在那边来去make sure 你可以每一页都印出来 ，before 你最后把它 submit 出去，你都可以去检查一下那或者是跟你的银行跟你的 CPA 去讨论你这个 application form 有没有什么地方要注意？基本上我认为只有5分钟你就可以 complete 了，没有那么困难那基本上这个东西大家可以试一试你到最后的第5个页面的时候， 再决定要不要submit出去啊。好，那第3个我要介绍叫做 Work Sharing Program。我刚才为什么强调这个哈？因为我们跟 PPP 可能有关系，因为你可能需要被免除这个 forgiven 这个 loan， 你可能至少要维持75% 才不会被他扣掉一部分的钱，你必须还。假设我请这个员工，我请10个人，但是我回来我只给他75%的薪水，另外25%可能可以跟 EDD 去做这个 program 的参加。所以有些公司可以先去参加，但是你不一定要实施。所以说你可以先 apply， 但是要不要 implement， 那是你的第2步。那我们为什么讲 work sharing 的 program？ 它基本上是第一个，员工可以领 EDD 的那个 UI； 第2个，他可以不会失去这个 job； 第3个，他有 cash flow， 他不会说财务困难。但是对雇主来讲，他可以考虑说是不是全部要 lay off 哦。那他 lay off 的这个东西，它可以减少这个lay off 的问题，然后它可以 retain 这个 experience people， 然后呢，他也不用说去以后再去 train。当然你如果说是 lay off， 还有很多的 labor law 规定，这个可能就要跟律师我们就跟 Derek 去请教。应该 rehire 这些有时候要注意，是因为你的 position lay off 掉，照理说要有一段时间是不能是有这个 issue 的，就是说你会被有很多 layoff 是理论上你应该有一段时间是不能再 rehire 的，可是现在是非常时期所以说有些东西可能还是要 work with 这个 labor law 的部分。好，那基本上这个 work sharing program 呢，它可以是申请的资格是这样 ：Number 1， 你必须是 California 的 registered 公司有 EDD 的 account， 你只能减10%到最多不能超过60%。假设 weekly 这个员工的薪水是1000块，你最多只能砍他60%的这个薪水，也就是说他领400块，剩下的60%他去申请 EDD， 所以 EDD 那边给他，以现在目前的规矩的话 ，EDD 的这个 employment 大概是每个礼拜是40块到450块，也就是说1个月下来450乘以4也就1800最高也是这样子。所以说基本上他拿的那部分在 EDD 那边并不是很多。但是你这边全部砍掉的话，他履量这个 ED 那部分薪水是非常少的。所以说为什么政府要发支票，每个人1200，大人太太夫妻就2400，一个小孩500，这就是说怕大家会到时候付不起 mortgage 啦，生活困难。所以说基本上，如果你要做这个 work sharing program， 还要注意它那些的重点是，你既然做这件事情，你所有的 health insurance必须维持一样的水准，就是不能砍掉他的 health insurance， 还有他的 retirement 的 benefit 也是不能把它完全就是要保持一样的水准。所以基本上可以考虑用 PPP 加上这个 work sharing， 是不是可能可以让员工的这个 income 不要一下子减到完全是纯粹去领 EDD 的 UI 那当然，这些还有一些资格，譬如说有些工作它有一些代表，它有 negotiation 这些的代表，所以说他们也都要同意，所有的员工愿意参加 work sharing， 然后呢，这个要通知所有这些的文件，基本上你要 submit 进去，然后呢，你把这些资格觉得符合，然后去申请，如果符合下来 ，EDD 会告诉你说你以后这些的人。他要让你填表格，然后呢，你的员工就拿这个表格去那边去领 EDD， 就是说这边我砍了60%，那剩下40%剩下60%去 EDD 领，或者你这边是砍他50%，另外50%去领 EDD，那当然有限制，list 的 employee、seasonal 的或者是这些 temporary 的都不能参加这个 work sharing program， 公司的主管跟主要的股东也不能参加而且你不能把这个 work sharing program 变成过渡时期的 layoff。所以说，当你要参加这个时候，我一直讲这2个的前提，你要 combine 这个时候，你不能说我利用这个期间付了大家的薪水，最后我还是都把它 layoff 掉。所以说这个要很注意，所以说不要把它变成是这样子的违法的使用，而是你一直想要 maintain。所以我们一直在跟有些银行和 CPA 在讨论说，这个 program。到最后，如果说政府给了8个礼拜的 PPP， 也就2个月，可是到 at the end 还是要去 lay off， 那其实你知道吗？这个其实我们认为应该真正接地气的方法是，应该是我现在10个人，我只需要5个人，政府应该鼓励这些继续不要再看人的 employer， 继续譬如说 waive 你的 employer 的这个 payroll tax， 或者是说我有一些 incentive， 或者给你更多的 credit， 至少可以止血。可是现在 PPP 是叫你要把很多的人维持一样的水准，这个其实我觉得 practically 可能你把他叫回来，然后过了2个月之后又叫他走，这个我觉得其实是有一点点看得到吃不到，然后最后呢又造成2次伤害。所以说这是我们现在的感想。而且银行呢，其实对他来讲，他们也很头痛，因为他不晓得该奈要怎么去写，怎么去做。但我回到这个主题怎么去申请？记得去申请 EDD 的网站，它有个表格叫做 DE-A6A6， 然后呢填完之后邮寄到 EDD 就可以完成申请。但是什么时候执行？它到时候它有一些这个 booklet 会告诉你你要怎么去执行。那你可以先申请，但是执不执行再做考虑。所以基本上这个就是我现在讲这3个 program， 有的人会非常适合有些的方案去一起合并去思考。所以这个部分是现在我跟大家的一些的这个分享。那 Paul。OK， 你补充一下，你从你那边看到的或者怎么样？
没有 Karen， 那个 Kevin 啊，谢谢你的 presentation。网络上有一些我们的 group chat 里面有一些 question 进来是先跟你请问一下，就是像你刚刚讨论的主要2个 two loan program EIDL and PPP。EIDL 是 up to 2 million per business 嘛，你这个 loan。而且我听说这个 CARES Act 是 they allocate up to $350 billion to pay for these things. What happens if there's an oversubscription of these loans? Do you have to rush to do it? Is this a first come first serve, or if you are still undecisive and then you do it 2 weeks later and it's all filled up, you can't get it? Could that be a possibility?
Yes, definitely. It's look like everybody just take the number, just waiting for in the line. So a lot of people just go online, apply for EIDL or PPP, and then the budget once it be used up, we're waiting for the next package. 现在政府也在讲说，现在第4个这个 package 正在准备中，因为他们 foresee 如果这个再不能再把它这个疫情继续严重的话现在这些 program 可能还不够用，所以他要 QE 无限的。所以刚才这个问题已经讲了，你如果没申请，事实上有可能你排队排到，可是已经没有这个放 possible， 而且有很大可能，所以这个就是变成说大家就很疯狂去申请 ，and then 就好像在买卫生纸一样，就是说大家就是冲进去就是开始抢了。所以说，已经很多的 small business they just apply for EIDL and then a lot of 这个所谓的 business owner 他也在 apply for PPP。但是我以 PPP 来讲，它现在是 handle by SBA 的800个合作的银行，只要做 SBA 的 7A or 504，这些他们都会去处理。但是很多银行说，他现在 existing 的 client 他们的 loan document 要 revise 要 amend， 他们已经晕头转向，已经加班加到不行了。现在这个 program 出来，他客人每天都在骂说，我要 submit 我的 PPP， 你什么时候帮我做？因为4月3号就开跑，所以说这就是最大的问题所以基本上这个 PPP 是我知道他们希望大家了解，他们现在银行4月6号 April 6他们会有 meeting， 所以他们会比较清楚如何 process PPP， 而且 cut off 怎么算？因为现在的 payroll 是这样子。有的银行给我的，像你，如果是你是用 ADP 已经帮你准备好表格了，那个表格它是用1月到12月，你根本就没办法改变，是2019年。但是呢，很多的这个 instruction 是说，可能是要用3月1号2019到2月29 2020的 payroll 来算 average。那有些人我应该补充一个，如果说你去年没有 payroll， 今年才是有 payroll 的话，用1月跟2月的 payroll 来算 average。所以说这是 PPP 的部分，然后 EIDL 是200万 maximum， 但是有没有这个 expectation 那么快？但是我知道也是 first就是 first in first serve， 然后用完就没了。
好，那还有那个如果大家还有什么问题的话，可以留到最后我们那个 microphone 打开来问。那没有的话，我现在进行下一个 segment。 Can everybody see the PowerPoint？ 那个 Jerry 你看得到？还有会长你看得到这个现在的什么 tax individual tax recovery？
可以。
这个可以 ，OK 好。好，那我接下来 my next topic is to talk about income tax changes as a result of the CARES Act, which is what it means is Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. That was signed last Friday, March 27. So I'm gonna be sharing the income tax changes and incentives. They're doing this just so that businesses that are affected can have a way to relieve some cash flow, okay, if it's applicable to them. All right, so break out income taxes. We're going to be breaking out into individual tax and business tax. 所以个人还有商业啊哈公司税有一些改变啊哈，跟大家 share 一下。首先 let's talk about the individual tax. Everybody's probably heard of the Trump rush to talk about giving everybody $1,200 back for verifying joint people, $2,400 like a tax rebate, okay? And if they have any children, it's gonna be $500 for each qualifying children under 17 years old. So that is true. And the way the Treasury, the IRS is going to be delivering this, they can only rely on taxpayers filing information in order to send you the rebate check, okay? So you gotta have prepare a tax return for 2019 or 2018, so they have your name and your number on record, because they also have to know what your adjusted gross income is. Okay, this money, this refund only available to people that make upwards of $99,000 for single, okay, or 200,000 for verifying joint. Essentially, if your AGI is less than 75,000, then you're gonna get the whole $1,200. Or for filing a joint, if your AGI is less than 150,000 per year, you're gonna get the whole $2,400. Now there are people that because their income is very low, so they're under the filing threshold that they never file tax return, IRS is not gonna have information on you. So if you wanna get on this rebate checklist, you still gotta find a way to file your past tax return. Okay, even if it's no activity or it's very minimal, find a way to do it. IRS has free tax return website for you to do it online yourself, or there are programs out there called VITA programs that people, students or firms can help poor people or lower income people file tax return on a pro bono basis. Okay, so important thing is this rebate, they're trying to send this out as soon as possible, but Treasury wants to get this done within the next few weeks, but they have to rely on the IRS system of filing to get information on you. Okay, it's not this is not available to non-resident aliens, so only American citizens, green card holders. It's also not available to estate trusts or people that can be claimed as other people's dependents. Okay. Okay, another change to the tax law is this waiver of 10% early withdrawal penalty. Those of you that have IRA accounts or 401k accounts, if you haven't reached retirement age and you want to have access to that retirement account, if you withdraw money, first of all, you have to pay income tax on the money you withdraw, and plus there's a 10% penalty for early withdrawal. Under this coronavirus period, this 2020, the IRS will be waiving that 10% penalty, okay? So, but your tax is still, your amount withdrawn is still gonna be taxed as a normal taxable income. However, you could spread that over 3 years instead of reporting it as a taxable income for 2020. the amount that you could withdraw not subject to this penalty is up to $100,000. And if you don't use it, there's a mechanism for you to put it back in the IRA without a penalty. So you can continue to accumulate earnings into your retirement. The withdrawal period is between January 1st, 2020 to December 31, 2020. So you can withdraw up to 100,000 within this period and not be subject to the penalty, 10% withdrawal penalty. Okay, it is available to people or family that are infected with the coronavirus, or because of this whole infection and economic situation, somehow they're economically harmed, so they can apply this law. Also, in addition to this 10% with distribution, this is for people that are already reaching 70 and a half years old by 2019. There's a tax law that requires mandatory distribution. Okay, the mandatory retirement mandatory distribution happens because the IRS doesn't want you to keep accumulating money in there without withdrawing. So by the time you're at age 70 and a half, there's a minimum computation you have to make every year. You have to withdraw some and pay income tax on it. There's a waiver because of this year. So during 2020, if you're reaching 70 and a half, you don't have to worry about RMD for this year. It'll go back to normal in the next year. Okay, also for charitable contribution, this is a very, in this period, everybody wants to help others. You know, we want to be charitable. So the IRS rule has changed a little bit. Normally, if you want to deduct charitable contribution, you have to make that deduction as an itemized deduction on your income tax return, your 1040. So if you're a standard deduction filer, normally you make cash contribution or deduction or a charitable contribution, you don't get the benefit of that deduction. IRS allows this year for 2020, it actually allows up to $300 cash contribution above the line. So it's before AGI. So maybe for 2021 tax return, when you file 2020, on the form itself, there might be a space in there for you to make up to $300 cash contribution and as a deduction above the line. Now, for Schedule A filers, this is the normal, typical method of claiming your charitable deduction. Under the old rule, actually the old rule under the Trump tax plan that started in 2017, if you make charitable contribution to public charities, you can deduct up to 60% of your AGI to make it a legitimate deduction against your taxable income. For 2020, this 60% limit has been eliminated. You could deduct up to 100% of your AGI. So if you really want to be charitable and you want to make deduction, 100% of your income this year can be deducted as a charity, if you make it to public charity. Now, this doesn't apply to private foundations, though. This is to public charity. That's the old rule, 60% applies to public charity. The applying to private foundation, I think it's still at 30% because I haven't seen any up, they haven't up anything on the private foundation yet. So if there's anything new on that, I'll let you guys know. Oh, the next line, sorry, I have a bad line in there. That belongs to prior slide. Okay, for corporations, okay, charity is also a deductible expense against taxes. But for corporation, normally you can only have charitable expense up to 10% of your taxable income. So there's a 10% income limitation for it to be allowed as a deduction. Anything in excess of that 10% can carry over to the following year. Under the CARES Act, in 2020, this 10% limitation has been upped to 25%. Okay, and also contribution to public charity. It's important to know that your contribution, your charity deduction, it doesn't have to be coronavirus related. If you're still contributing to education purpose, any other type of normal charity, that can still be 100% deducted for the AGI limitation, okay, and for corporate as well. And for full inventory contribution, the old rule was you can have up to 15% of taxable income value deduction. That's also been up to 25% if you want to contribute full inventory as contribution. Okay, for employers that are continuing to pay their employees for relief, the IRS is now giving a refundable credit on the employer's portion of Social Security tax. So Social Security tax is comprised of the old age and disability insurance. That's 6.2%. Company pays half of, altogether Social Security tax is about 15.5%. Half is paid by employee, half is paid by employer. And the half paid by employer is also further broken down to OASDI and Medicare. The OASDI is now a refundable credit IRS is allowing to help with the cash flow of companies. So grants are eligible against employment taxes equal to 50% of qualified wages paid to employees due to full or partial stop of business or a significant decline in gross receipts. And the credit is available to be claimed on a quarterly basis because we file payroll taxes quarterly. But the amount of wages, including health benefit, for which the credit can be claimed is limited to $10,000 per employee for all quarters. That means at 50%, the credit, you're gonna have a credit up to a maximum of $5,000 per employee for 2020. If you continue to, if you pay out payroll this year, the IRS is gonna give you, help you pay for some of your Social Security tax burden. And it's applied to wages paid after March 12, 2020, and before January 1st, 2021. So from March 12 to the end of 2020. Okay, here's the caveat, okay? If you're gonna apply for PPP and you end up receiving government forgiveness, the SBA loan forgiveness on payroll, you know how earlier Kevin was talking about if you apply for PPP, you might be forgiven some loans, 8 weeks, up to 8 weeks worth of payroll. If you're gonna be getting that loan and being able to claim that sort of forgiveness, this credit is not gonna be available to you. Okay, so you can't really double dip because you never pay that payroll to begin with, okay? Okay, in addition to this credit thing, that is dollar for dollar up to 50%, you can also, if you, to help alleviate a business's cash flow, okay, the government now allows you to defer depositing that Social Security tax, only the employer's portion, the 6.2% of Social Security tax through the end of 2020. So for the next 3 quarters, you can defer depositing, remitting that 6.2% employer portion of payroll tax. And now all the amounts that are deferred in 2020 will be due in equal installments at the end of 2021 and 2022. So you actually have up to 2 years to catch up on that, that deferred deposit, okay? So this is a good thing. It helps you with the cash flow. You still have to pay it, but you don't have to pay it. You don't have to deposit it until the end of 2021 and 2022, 2 equal installments. Sounds good. But this relief deferral is also not available if taxpayer also incurs debt forgiveness under the PPP CARES Action Loans programs that you're applying for that you actually got benefit from. Okay, just something to keep in mind. Another interesting thing that's useful for companies if they want to, if they're able to get some tax refund or tax credit back, is the use of net operating losses. The 2017 Trump Tax Act changed the tax code, and what happens was at that time, starting in 2018, when a company incurs a net operating loss for the year, they have to carry that net operating loss to future years. They cannot carry it back and amend past tax returns for a refund. In the old days, before that law, you were able to go back 2 years to apply for a refund. But under the new law, under the 2017 law, any new NOLs cannot be carried back. And also, under the new 2017 law, in the future, if you have income and you have NOL to offset, you can only offset up to 80% of income. So at any time, you're gonna have to at least a 20% taxable income, even though you have NOL available. The unused NOL will continue to be carried forward. Because of the coronavirus situation, this new temporary act changes the rule to allow this NOL, the Trump tax plan, arising before any NOL, like 2018, 2019 that you incur NOL, and 2020 arising before 2021, you could carry it back 5 years. So if any of the 5 years previously you have a taxable income and you pay taxes in those years, and now you incur net operating loss, you get to carry back, get your tax accountant to help you, or you file an amended tax return for past years and claim that refund back. Okay, claim a refund on the taxes you pay on previous taxable profit year. And also for 2020, for any NOLs arising before 2021, so we're talking specifically 2018, 2019, 2020, these NOLs are not going to be subject to that 80% taxable income limitation. So those in the future, you get to apply 100%, you could offset 100% against taxable income for the period, for any NOLs arising before 2021. Okay, another modification to the current 2017 Trump tax has to do with the business interest deduction. Okay, the 2017 Trump Tax Act had this new tax regulation that says any year a company that incurs business interest, IRS will only allow up to a deduction up to 30% of the adjusted taxable income. So if you make $100 for, let's say you make $1 million for 1 year, but your interest for that year is $500,000. You can only deduct up to 30% of 1 million, so that you can only deduct $300,000 for that year. The $200,000 that is that's in excess cannot be used in that year. It can be carried forward to future year to apply. Okay, but for that year, it's limited to 30% deduction. With the new CARES Act, they are upping that 30% limitation to 50%. Okay, so it applies to 2019 return and 2020 return. Now, if any of you don't know much about this rule, you may be because maybe some of our business are under the exclusion. For smaller businesses with the average gross revenue of 25 million or less, that's not subject to this business interest deduction. So you don't have to worry about that. That's still continue to hold. But it's for companies with revenue over 25 million average. You may have this business interest deduction if you borrow, if you have a high leverage. And so now there's a little bit more relief. Instead of 30% limitation, it's 50% limitation. Again, the excess and deducted interest expense can continue to carry forward to the following year. Okay, those are the main items related, the main tax modifications for coronavirus that potentially can help companies businesses and individuals for some tax relief. There are some other miscellaneous changes that I'm listing here. Things that I find interesting are things like under the Trump tax, they were encouraging companies to buy equipment, capital expenditures, and allow what they call a 100% bonus depreciation. So instead of depreciating over 5 years, 7 years, under Trump tax, you could do 100% deduction on the first year of acquisition. However, that didn't apply to a building improvement. Building improvement relating to interior design and or non-structure improvements to building, it's usually treated as a 15-year property, but under the Trump rule, that 15-year, they didn't change the definition and they still didn't call it a maker's property. So those type of improvements, even though they were 15 years, under the Trump Tax Act, you have to depreciate over the life of the building, which is 39 and a half years. Now, they provide some relief on this. We define this thing as actually building improvements as actually 15-year maker's property. And therefore, 100% bonus depreciation is now allowed. So restaurants, they're improving their restaurant facilities with improvements. We're not talking about refrigerators, those type of things. We're talking about things that are attached to the building but not structural. Those can be, those are called 15-year maker's property, and they can be 100% bonus depreciation on the year that's placed in service. Also, for companies that have 401k plans, or for IRAs, companies that have small business IRAs, normally you have to fund your matching or all the funding towards those pension plans before you file a tax return every year. So there's a due date for contribution. They're allowing you a little bit of a cash flow help. So due dates of any contributions that are normally due in 2020 cannot be delayed until January 1st, 2021. However, because this law is something that you need to put into a pension plan for it to accumulate asset, if you choose to delay that, you have this cash flow available. However, by the time you actually put it in by January 1st, 2021, there's a little bit of interest that you have to pay for delaying that. Okay, and one interesting thing, oh, excuse me. Has to do with the SBA loan debt forgiveness. So we talked extensively, Kevin Ye talked extensively about the PPP program, where some of that loan principal may actually be forgiven if you use it to pay qualifying wages and utilities and rent, and the government is going to waive that principal for you. Normally, when you incur a waiver, if somebody gave you money or forgive debt, you have to pick it up as a taxable income. But under this CARES Act, the SBA loan debt forgiveness will not be considered taxable. So you don't have to pick it up as a discharge indebtedness income. Also, a couple other miscellaneous things for corporations. In the past, there used to be called the alternative minimum tax regime, where companies have to accumulate regular tax versus AMT. If there's AMT, they can use it going forward in the future. But the 2017 Tax Act took care of all that. It sort of repealed all that AMT tax regime. However, if company had unused credit in the prior years, they were supposed to be able to have several years to use it up until it fully becomes refundable. The old refundable year was supposed to be 2021. Under this new tax act, the CARES Act, they've moved it up to 2019. So for 2019 return, company can choose to, if they have any unused AMT credit, they could claim for a full refund on that AMT credit. Other miscellaneous items has to do with excise taxes on alcohol, on aviation fuels, on kerosene fuels. There's alcohol if it's being used for producing sanitizers. There's a waiver of excise taxes. Aviation kerosene fuels if it's used for air transportation. Amounts being paid between since the passing of the CARES Act, March 27, starting from March 28 to December 31, there's a suspension of those excise taxes. And so that ends my discussion on the tax aspects of it. Let's see if there are any questions.
Yeah, read it, have the questions.
Okay, please read it. Please read it for me. I'm trying to catch up on the chat.
The payroll up to the 8 weeks forgiveness would receive the 50% credit.
The PPP, if you're getting PPP, if you're applying for the what they call the Paycheck Protection Program loan, and you get it, and you actually end up getting waivers from paying that loan, if government forgives you, then you will not be able to get the 50% payroll tax credit. You can't double dip. Okay. Similarly, for deferring, it also doesn't apply to deferring the payroll payment for 2 years, and the payroll employer's portion of the payroll tax until December 31st. There's a rule that you can defer making the employer's share of the payroll tax from now to December 31st, 2020. You don't have to make that deposit until the end of 2021 and end of 2022, over 2 years. Okay, you can do that, but if you're able to enjoy some of these loan forgiveness, you can't double dip, so they won't let you do that.
Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think you didn't answer my question clearly. Okay, my question is, okay, EIDL, this loan, okay, each company only allow $2 million, right? And what is the government, okay, 最高限额，就说它这个方案到底是贷款方案是政府是给拨款是那个1000亿那个吗？
What maybe Kevin can add to this, but I believe 这些 SBA loan program 是 part of 那个350个 billion。OK。哦。是 part of 那350个 billion。
那所以既然说这样都有这种金额呀，the limit right， 所以我们是不是现在要做的说 we apply whoever apply to get a number first？ Otherwise OK， 所以今天是不是这个 seminar 是要 encourage everybody, all the owner, whoever qualify, apply right away. Otherwise, the amount would be used out, right?
没错
Is that right? 没错哈。
Yes, Kevin 就是这么说，但是他是说现在银行很害怕，因为他们已经 overwhelmed 了。
我补充一下，
可是不是明天才开始申请吗？
来，我先讲一下 PPP 是4月3号开跑。但是呢是跟 payroll 有关的，好，所以基本上对银行来讲，这是完全新的 program， 所以说他也不知道 underwriting 的 guideline compliance， 所以说 PPP 还有注意一点哈，刚才那个 Paul 有特别讲哈，你做了 PPP 如果被 forgive 的话，不能 double dip， 就是说你不能，因为就是好像 assume 你这个 payroll 就是没有发生的嘛，这个 PPP 等于是你这些 payroll 的这个在被 forgive 的时候，你等于是没有 payroll 嘛，所以说呢，你的 payroll tax 不能双重使用啊。当然，我们要再 figure out 说，是不是说你申请了没成功，说你那些 forgive 的话，我是不是可以再继续有这个 credit 的 enjoyment？ 好，这个是 PPP， 但是很多人在申请，很多人在申请，但银行呢，对他来讲，他很头痛，因为他还没有知道怎么做。好，那讲回 Karen 刚才讲这个200万哈。我刚才一直强调说，你这200万是因为 PPP 没有 personal guarantee， 也没有担保品，所以呢，大家很多人会愿意去试。但是呢 不要忘了 SBA loan 那个是直接上网 SBA.gov 去申请，而且他没有 guarantee 你200万哦，他说 maximum up to 2 million， 听清楚哦 ，maximum up to 2 million， 你不能说你申请他就给你2 million，no， 他可能还要看你一些 financial statement， 所以很多的你的担保品，因为他第一个要担保品，第二个他要 personal guarantee， 所以说我一直强调说，如果你这个 business 是存在的，没有 loan 很合适，因为呢整个 application 送进去，他觉得你的公司对他来讲是一个负担，因为你可能会 default， 所以说他基本上会拒绝你 denial， 你的 application 整个送进去很完整，但是他说对不起我不借你，有可能哦，但是呢你那1万块，他有可能就说就是 for grant， 这个 grant 可能就不要 repay， 所以说大家是看到的是那个1万块，但是你要准备很多 document， 不是 incomplete 的 application， 所以说要讲清楚哦，送这个 apply for 这个 grant 1万块是 advance， 但是 at the end 你整个 document 他可能会 denial， 然后说他不借你钱，因为你的担保品不够，或者是你的 personal guarantee 他觉得好像也他 check 你的那个 credit， 他觉得说哇 no， 我这个是不是要救你这个 business， 这个还是 up to SBA 的这个单位，所以说我才说200万不是 guarantee 200万哦，第二个你200万申请他搞不好给你50万哦。所以要想清楚。第二件事情是，最怕的是你 already 已经有一个 bank loan， 你这 bank loan 已经把你的 AR inventory 都已经做 collateral 了，那你借了1000万，你现在又来一个200万，假如他借你200万，他说我要 replace 你的 collateral， 他是 UCC one first position， 你看银行会不会跳起来？你知道意思吗？银行它是 first position， 你现在用政府来 first position， 结果呢，银行说好这样子好，你去借这个。SBA 的200万，那我的1000万，你先把1000万还给我，那你是不是有可能有这个问题？当然，你的 collateral 可能要分割，所以我才说要考虑你有新的 collateral， 譬如说他 SBA 愿意接受你剩下的，或者是说他拿你的 first position 在哪些？譬如说我押给银行的是我的 AR、fixed asset 跟 inventory，AR 80%，inventory 50%，whatever 全部都是银行的，但是我这个新的 loan 我提供我的 residential house， 那看他要不要拿什么样的 position， 这些或者是甚至 SBA 愿意拿 second position 在你的公司的 asset 下，这样才可能 workable。所以说现在这个 SBA loan 基本上很多的时候会跟你现存的这个 existing loan 会打架。所以说我说要找你的 CPA， 因为他知道你的那个公司的这个debt structure。Number two， 还有你的银行。他会不会听到的时候都已经开始往后想要叫你 repay 他的 loan， 所以说这个要很注意，是说大家会去申请，但是到最后会不会被 denial？Number two， 这些合不合适你的公司的 structure 要很仔细考虑，因为有些公司我认为是绝对可行，是因为它的 loan 很小，譬如说他现在 loan 只有50万，银行假设那个 SBA 借他100万，他不但把这50万还掉，他还多了50万的这个 line。Number two， 他的loan interest 搞不好是只有 3.75， 所以说他可能这个时候他会得利，所以说这是我的补充。
那个 Kevin， 我可不可以问一下那个，我其实我们今天是礼拜4啦，那这个方案是上礼拜5才下来，然后我很多客人还有甚至业界的朋友都叫我们去申请那个 EIDL loan， 那我们也拿到号码了。那请问一下，同一个 owner 的话，有2家公司以上，这个会冲突吗？还是因为就申请了号码，就这样，大家就赶快去抢先机，把号码都拿下来了，这样子。就刚刚你那个PowerPoint 里面，你那个你叫我们申请的步骤，我们其实已经都完成了。
理论上它是一个 entity 去考虑啦，理论上因为它每个 owner 你只有唯一重叠的20%， 它是这样子 ，guarantee 呢，它是有20% 的股东他要提供，最后他开始跟你要的 package， 因为我客人申请的时候已经在跟他要这个，他可能要准备的是 personal financial statement， 只要是20% 的 ownership 就要提供，所以说有可能 owner。基本上他可能有好几个 business， 但是呢，申请者 applicant 其实是 另外一个 EIN， 所以说基本上你可能有好多个企业，可是他要不要 process 你这个 loan 是 based on 每一个 applicant， 但是你的 overall 的 collateral 可能到最后他可能会 process 到那个地步，发现说讲来讲去就是一个你可以提供的additional 的这个 collateral 都是一个，然后你现在申请了5个 SBA loan， 所以有可能这个时候可能他可能有些 loan 会说 no， 你这个已经一个企业拿走了，这个你还要再提供一个新的 collateral， 所以现在最主要是这个 EIDL 最主要是说你要 personal financial statement， 然后你要拿出 collateral， 然后呢还有一个 requirement 是说他要看你的 personal financial statement， 所以说这个是后面他会跟你要，但是1万块是因为每个人都说我先拿1万块 advance， 是为了那个，所以有时候我们要去思考，要准备这么多 document 啊，这个1万块进来，然后要等他 denial， 然后呢再告诉你说哦这个你就不用 repay， 所以有时候呢有的业主跟我讲说他觉得头有点痛，为了1万块要不要去做这么多事啊？所以这是现在因为新的方案出来，大家都好像跟那个一个新的 program， 大家在 try and error， 所以说呢也是 depends on 每个人的这个客户他申请的结果，我们才可以再 summarize 这个 feedback。但是基本上我看到的问题就是说，要注意，基本上有 guarantee，personal guarantee， 然后呢你有这个担保品的问题。
那个我有看 Steven， 徐会长你有 raise hand， 但是你要把你的 mute， 你有问题的话，你要把那个你的麦克风先关，先那个 disable， enable， 这样子我们才可以听到你。Okay, I also see a question about the $1,200 recovery rebate. Government IRS wants to send everybody a check, $1,200, verifying joint. $2,400. If you are within that income threshold, government is going to automatically mail you a check. Okay. However, they do need to rely on the most updated information. The question is if you have changed mailing address. If that's the case and you think they're going to mail to the wrong address, you have to send in a mailing update form. I forget what the form number is, but we can post that later so that you can inform the IRS. Or if you have somehow received other type of government benefit checks that they have your latest update information, they could maybe also automatic deposit. Now the question is, if somebody has never filed a tax return before, first of all, they don't know if your AGI is below or above 75,000. So you never file, you're not gonna get it. So you gotta have something on the record so they can estimate. This rebate, recovery rebate, is sort of like a pre-tax rebate for the against your 2020 tax. So they give me a credit for 2020 year, prepaying for it, but they're gonna estimate your information based on 2019 or 2018 information, because 2019 many people have not filed tax return yet. Okay. Felix has asked whether the payroll after 8 weeks forgiveness under the PPP program, can they continue to receive a 50% credit? I don't have an answer for that yet. I only know the general rule. I don't know whether that's gonna apply. Kevin, can you chime in, or maybe Derek would know?
OK， 我先讲那个1200的哈，1200是这样子 ，mailing address 哈，你如果已经搬家的8822 phone 8822 change your address. Number 2, IRS 的 website， 你 how to get your refund faster? You have to tell IRS your direct deposit information. 要 refund to 1 account, 2 account, 3 account. Go to IRS, just key in the keyword. Get your refund faster. 好。基本上 IRS 不知道是昨天早上还是今天早上的 announce， 有些 senior 他只有拿 Social Security benefit， they have not report their income， 因为他的 income too low， 所以他们没有报过税。IRS 说今天他们可以根据你的 Social Security benefit 知道你有收入，但是你不需要报税 ，they gonna issue check for you。但是呢 ，another way around， 我们有些客人他不想等。他就直接要求会计师报一个 no income tax return 或者是 with social security benefit 的 income， 事实上是 at the end 是 no tax due， 然后他可能报一些他的 bank interest 一点点 ，everything still no tax due， 但是他可以 input 他的 direct deposit routing number, account number, bank name, and then they file either 2018 or 2019 as long as the IRS get it。所以这些 seniors 他可能一个人就是1200，两个senior 夫妻2400，因为呢 IRS 刚 announce 说 it's not necessary you file tax return， 但是有些 taxpayer 他觉得他等不及，他赶快要 get direct deposit， 所以基本上 change your address filing the phone， 但是进去可能要一段时间。Number 2， 原本是 paper check， 你是 receive paper check 在你的 previous tax return 的 year 2018， 或者是还没有file 2019， 但是你没有 ask for direct deposit， you can go online to update your direct deposit information。好，所以可能可以 speed up 这个 deposit 的这个速度。Go to irs.gov， 那他们就有讲这些 check 的 information， 你可以大概读一下。但是基本上对那些没有报过税的，他可以赶快上网报税，或者是因为他有一些简单的可以上网去报税或找 CPA 报税，但是你要拿到更快的资料，要把 direct deposit 的 information 打进去。
Okay, the other question has to do with whether you know how I talked about if you're getting the 50% payroll credit, however, you also try to get a PPP loan and get a forgiveness. That PPP loan only forgive 8 weeks worth of payroll. And but if you're still paying payroll for the whole year, can you get credit for the other months that you are not getting forgiven?
So far， Paul， 刚才我们 share 一个是说，我们现在搞清楚你申请 PPP 是就没办法拿 credit， 还是说只有 forgive 的部分，我们要不要verify一下哈？因为很多人现在已经 PPP 已经冲进去了哈。那 Number 2， 假设你拿到 forgiveness， 可能就没办法 combine， 这 for sure。听起来不能 double dig， 假设说要 compare， 假设说我payroll 一个月是10万块，然后我最多是省了25万，那你要 compare to 你 continue 去发 payroll， 然后呢你的那个 payroll tax 的 credit up to 到多少，这些东西是不是这个 benefit 更高？好，这个要去比较，因为你两个不能两个都打，对不对
Okay, so Felix, to answer your question, if you're still around, maybe at the end of the day, we're going to end up comparing computing under both scenario, and if you're already getting more from your PPP, that's it, you maxed out. But if your credit is higher than what you got for given PPP, you may be able to get an extra. We don't know at this point yet, okay? But that may be a route.
Yeah, and then the others for in addition is the phone for the credit is phone 7200. There's a new phone just updated yesterday or the day before yesterday. So it's a kind of a lot of things, new item, new things, new rule and new guidance always change or always updated for more details. So that's why we still keep updating and collect all the information from every source.
Okay, so 会长, do you want to conclude? I think we're pretty much done. I see the questions, unless there are any more questions to be posted. Karen did mention, I see Karen posted that the White House just announced that they're urging everybody to wear face masks now, because catching up with what they're doing in Asia. And although also there are a lot of charity efforts, or are we doing anything at the TACC level or other foundation level? Anything you would like to announce?
We almost have one big event to come out, but I'm holding it now because something changes yesterday and today. So let's wait and see on the charities event that we try to promote it within our CATT AOA, because it's something that we need to combine with other organizations. It just happened just mainly just 1 hour before our seminar, so yeah. But in terms of today's seminars, is there any other people want to have a last question to ask? 有没有人要有什么样最需要问的问题？因为我们这3位 professional 在这里不容易 ，if they can give you answers, this is a very good opportunity.
刚刚那个 Derek 律师讲的哈，就是那个 rent delay. So how could we do if a landlord, if you know, 那个 they don't pay the rent, we cannot
Derek.
ask them to leave.
Yes.
Then
So-
loss is you know, for residential for up to 12 months and commercial up to 3 months. And we the landlord, as be a landlord, we cannot receive the rent. How can we do, for this?
Correct. Right now, they are encouraging both tenants and landlords to put down in writing requests to each other of how they're going to handle this. But with regard to the stay, it sounds like you have apartment and residential units. My understanding is there is a stay on enforcement of evictions. So as part of if you were trying to bring a unlawful detainer action right now, there would be affirmative defense saying that you cannot bring it right now, and there would probably be a stay on it. And unfortunately, the government is trying to help these tenants, but passing the burden on to the landlords because in their view, they're feeling that the individual tenants are in a financially worse position. So there's not much you can do as a landlord, as far as I know. And again, on the commercial side, they get to offset the rent until 3 months after this period is over. But in all cases, it is not a rent forgiveness, it's a rent delay. But I imagine, especially for the lower income tenants that don't have any assets to go after, they may just squat and not pay their rent. And then there'll be an extended period of squatting without paying rent while you're waiting for the extended period to expire. So it's just horrible, but it's just a bad situation for everybody, and the unemployed, low-income people won't have a place to live. They're kicked out right now, and so there's just a political movement, and that is what's going on now. It's getting even worse because there is a movement for rent forgiveness, and that would be even worse if they force landlords not to charge rents. So right now it's just a delay, but it is at risk, subject to the ability for the tenant to pay once the stay is lifted. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, okay, I see.
There's a question from Felix about changes in depreciation for equipment. No, there's nothing changed. Any equipment that you place in service is still, you could claim the 100% bonus depreciation if you have the income to offset it. Okay, I see no other questions. Ken, do you want to conclude?
Yeah, 那个今天的这一个seminars 的 information 我们会review 之后，假如没有什么大的问题，我们会 post 在我们的 website 上面。所以大家要是有任何的further information needed, you can check on our website to see what the information we bring up today. Okay, and we are still in a state of the emergencies, and the peak is coming up probably in the next, according to Trump, next 2 weeks. So there's a holding well here, and just keep ourselves safe and your employees safe. I think it's very important. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And also there was a question of whether there's consent to republish parts of this presentation. And as far as my presentation goes in PowerPoint, you're certainly welcome to republish it anywhere.
Thank you, Derek. And again, I want to thank you very much for bringing us your expertise on this. And you came very well prepared. It helped us a lot. And I want to thank President Ken for spearheading this. He wanted everybody at the chamber to have to be in sync with the new updates on this. So thank you, and Lisa, for putting this together. And we want to thank our CPA VP Kevin Ye for his very detailed information as well. All our presentation, I have Derek's, I have Kevin, and I have my PowerPoint presentation that we're using earlier. I'm going to be sending it over to Lisa, and so Lisa and Ken will work on distributing this on the website. Okay.
Okay.
And so I think we're good.
Okay. Lisa, you have anything you want to say before you do the following up work?
I'm gonna, once I get the information, I'm gonna put everything on the website, and then if there's any other questions, just let me know. But for future reference, when we do this again, and I'm sure we're gonna be doing this again, and it's very successful, there's a few people I haven't identified yet, so I'm gonna come after you. So you better change your name on the screen.
Okay. I want to say something before we end it, because there's a Zoom bombing, right? A situation happening in many other cases. That's why we have these upgraded law of the policing, who is in these seminars while we are doing this section. There's a reason we keep monitoring who is in and out. Okay, Kevin, you are the one that started to organize this. You have anything you want to say before we end it?
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you everybody to join, and it's a chance that we can go through all the details, and a lot of uncertainty still keep going on. So we will keep informed, and through our president, and then our other professional to come together all the information to have new updates and then all details or some kind of feedback from the bank or SBA teams, so we can have more information to provide it to everybody.
Oh, sorry, Kevin, I have one last question. I think earlier I saw a question, I skipped it, but for the PPP loan, we are talking about 2.5 months worth of payroll to apply for a loan. Does that apply to 1099 commissions? Can you use 1099 to compute your loan?
No, they just simply saying that's for payroll. However, those 1099 sole proprietor, they can apply their own. So in my earlier discussions, April the 3rd is for small business owner who had the payroll. So they will cover the payroll for up to 8 weeks if qualify. And for 1099 person, their application will start from April the 5th. That means a sole proprietor, they are eligible for their own. So that's the reason.
No, the question is in computing how much you pay out for payroll, average payroll, can you count the 1099 payouts?
No, because they will be served from different sources.
Okay. Okay, so